Before we begin, since this is a BBC-owned property, I feel the need to point out that the news arm of the BBC has a continuing issue with transphobic leanings in its news coverage. You can find in a pinned comment below various videos from both myself and other YouTubers covering this issue. And while I understand that the Doctor Who creative team is not responsible for this, I will continue to point this out for as long as it remains a consistent issue. Thank you.
Orphans really do have it tough, don't they? Take two Doctor Who reviews, carry on, and it's time to revisit Orphan 55. This one has been a bit notorious right from its first airing, and not unjustly. This is a weird one. And I am going to say weird more than I'm going to say bad, because the ways in which it doesn't work, and it is bad, are not standard. Like, there's a weird... honestly, I can't help but feel that the script was trying for something different than what the director was trying for. What do I mean by that? Well, there's a fair amount of stuff that's in here that's pretty camp, pretty ridiculous. Feels like it wasn't really meant to be taken seriously. On paper, a lot of this comes across as more lighthearted with like an environmental thing running as an undercurrent. But then when it was shot and filmed, it was all done very dramatically and treated seriously with serious lighting and music and ominous, and it doesn't click. Because you've got stuff like a character named Hyphen with a 3. You have an aliens that the thing that designates them as aliens is their hair is green. You have a character who's introduced sucking her thumb. You have this old couple and all the weirdness that goes on with how BENNI is presented and that whole thing. And it feels like it's trying to, well, have fun might be the wrong word, but it feels like it's trying to just poke at all these things. That it's not presenting this as a big dramatic thing, as like a, boy, in this kind of ridiculous. But then the presentation is so straight-faced. And given that Ed Heim, who wrote the script for this, also wrote It Takes You Away, which I love, part of me, there's one of two things, and it's a question of whether or not I want to let Ed Heim off the hook in specific. So the version that is not his fault is that he wrote a script that was meant to have a not particularly serious tone, but it was approached completely straight-faced in a way that meant a lot of more outwardly ridiculous elements are clashing with the tone of the thing. That's the version that's not his fault. The version that is his fault is that he just wrote a mess, and maybe he even wrote a mess with It Takes You Away, but it just happened to line up in a way that worked. You get that sometimes. Sometimes you'll get writers or creators in general who, what they do, like, that doesn't work, but like every now and then the stars align and the thing that they do somehow all fits together and clicks and you're like, oh, okay, that does work. But then you try and take in more of their work and it turns out to be a fluke. Sometimes that happens. I don't know if that's the case with Ed Heim, but those are kind of the two possibilities I see. I'm talking broad strokes so far. Let's get into this thing. It's hard to know where to start. There's a lot of weirdness. So they just get teleported in to this resort, and there is a lot of potential in the core idea of a resort that's actually on a blasted hellscape of a planet. But you wouldn't know that while you're in the resort because it's within this self-contained safety bubble that also makes it look like everything's all nice out there. There's certainly things to be done there, especially that tie in with the environmental message in terms of, maybe, I mean, the most obvious thing is, like, if this is the protective dome where people of means go, and ignore all of the destruction that's out there. Certainly could have done that. There's even hints of that. It's like talked about as if that's the theme, but it can't be. It doesn't fit. So like it's brought up when it talking about the evacuation of the planet, and when we're getting into the backstory, it's brought up that people of means evacuated the planet and left everybody else here. So that idea of a class divide, of those with means not having to suffer the consequences, is in the text, but not in the story. It's literally talked about. But the thing is, the part of the reason this resort is built here is because it's cheaper to build it here, which also means they can offer it at more of a discount. Maybe there's some people here who are of means, but like the doctor and her companions won a contest. We're seeing the workers who are not people of means. The old couple, they come across, more like elderly people on a cruise, not of means, but of like they're retired and they have a little money to use. Like people are coming across more as middle class-esque. This is not the ruling elite who abandoned the planet. So even bringing up that idea when it is not on display with the rest of what's going on is weird. And then there's all the twist with the fact that this is Earth. The first thing is, it's weird to me that twist happens with like 10, 12 minutes left to go. Because there's a reason that things like the Planet of the Apes save that twist for the ending. Because it's a gut punch if you do it right. But you do it earlier and then you keep going. It's an odd choice. And it's made more odd because not everyone learns it at the same time. Doctor figures it out first. Other characters figure it out later. And then we end with kind of a lecture on it. And I suppose we might as well deal with that since we brought it up. The ending speech from the doctor. All right, here's the thing. It could have worked if they'd stopped it a lot sooner. Like if they'd stopped it after basically the first couple of sentences, would have been fine. Would have been solid.
You want me to tell you that Earth's gonna be okay? Because I can't.
But after that, like she's delivering this as if it's the fault of her companions. Like their inaction caused the problem, which it's not.
The future is not fixed. It depends on billions of decisions and actions and people stepping up.
A bit like it reminds me how bad this show was at trying to criticize capitalism in Kerblam. That's the absolute wrong way to deal with the actual problems of environmental degradation, because the issues are maybe not necessarily helped, but are not caused by your companions, nor is it caused by the average viewer. It's caused by major corporations. They are the ones dumping millions and millions and millions of tons of carbon into the atmosphere. Not you for, driving your car to the corner instead of walking. Would it be better for you to walk? Yes. But like, that's a drop in the ocean. Whereas what these corporations do is freaking tsunamis. So, like, it's wrong-headed in the first dang place. Especially being delivered directly to the companions. Like, what did they do? And what do you expect them to do? Like, the only way I could see this working is if environmental protection and pushing to fix that becomes a running theme throughout the series, and it doesn't. I mean, it comes up again in Praxeus, which to my memory is better than this one, but like it's not running through it as much of a major theme as like say capitalism was in series 10. So it's weird. It's a weird choice. And the dregs, all right, I mean, first of all, let's just gloss over the fact that that's not how evolution works. Like I understand evolution can happen from random mutations, but like species don't randomly mutate the ability to literally breathe the exact opposite of what they used to breathe. Like we currently breathe in oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide, and these things suddenly breathe carbon dioxide and exhale oxygen. That's not how evolution works, but let's move past that. It's soft science, whatever. But here's another thing that's weird is that the dregs, the way they are shot early on, it's very Alien-esque, like the movie Alien. They are kept in the shadows, tight close-ups, dripping off the fangs. We don't get a clear look. They're fairly effective at that point. But then later on, we see them out in open daylight. They don't look nearly as good. And there's even a couple shots that are like, that looks really CGI. Maybe it's a bad green screen composite. I don't know. But there's some shots where like, these things look terrible. And it kind of again just shows like not understanding what you're working with, because you'd think with the way that they're shot early on that it's leaning into the fact that these things don't look great if we just show them, so we'll shoot them this way so it works. But then we do get a clear look at them, so it seems to be more like, oh, we'll hide them until we get the big reveal of our great monster. But it's not a great monster. It's not very good. You should have kept it in the shadows. And we've got the whole thing with Bella, who like is established as being unemployed. So again, with the this is not the ruling elite's vacationing here thing. But she's here for her mom. So like this is our second episode in a row bringing mommy issues to the forefront. Not sure why, but that did stick out to me. I don't want to dwell on the stuff with BENNI. I don't want to dwell on that. The thing was, it was so weird. I actually kind of oddly liked it the first time I saw it, just because like it was so out of left field. I don't think I really knew how to process it, because it is weird. This whole thing with him holding a full conversation from outside, while clearly in tons of pain, it's the way that dialogue and that conversation flows is really bizarre. And then later on, when the woman whose name I don't remember, I only remember BENNI, but when she runs into somebody, who's like,
"Did you see BENNI?"
Yeah. Don't worry, I killed him.
Honestly, I laughed at that because, again, it's such an absurd line. It feels like it's supposed to be funny, but nothing about the delivery and the shooting style and the lighting or any of the rest of it presents it as funny. So again, it makes me wonder if there's a disconnect between the script and the director. But like, even beyond the weirdness and stuff that doesn't gel, like, this is an idiot plot. If you're not familiar with that term, it's a term for a story or a plot that only goes the way it does because people act like idiots. Not because of characters' wants or desires or, character choices that make logical sense. People just act stupid. Like, from its very conception, the idea of this resort on Orphan 55 is already a stupid idea. So our premise is predicated on people being stupid. And then, like, let's go out and look for this old guy and let's take everybody with us. Like, I support Doctor Who going out and trying to save everybody. Always. But like, let's take everyone with us out into this area surrounded by all these monsters that are trying to kill everything. That's a stupid decision. Then we have Bella, who, she wants to get back at her mom, so she's going to blow up an entire resort and kill how many people? So she's an idiot. Right down to tiny little things like there's the maintenance guy and his kid, and at one point the kid gets annoyed and storms off, but like, he leaves the room where they're all locked in and safe and storms off into the hallway where the dregs are. Even if I make allowances for the kids are dumb, like, that's stupid. But that's going to drive a bit of the plot for a little bit. The plot exists in the shape that it does because almost everyone's a moron and just does stupid things. I can't hate this episode because it doesn't anger me, but it confounds me. I feel like this was probably never going to be good, but like there's some disconnect somewhere that resulted in it being this bizarrely bad. Because it's not even a case where like I see the idea, but it didn't quite pull together, which is how I feel like, say, Love and Monsters. But this, like, I'm not entirely sure what you were going for, or if everybody was on the same page for what the goal was here. It's just really weird. It's clunky. It is bad, but I feel like weird is the better descriptor than like bad or worst episode ever. Like it's just weird, man. It's weird in a bad way because like It Takes You Away was weird, but that was weird in a good way. This is weird in a bad way, but just, I don't know. I don't know. This thing's kind of a mess. Orphan 55. Have you rewatched this? What are your thoughts on it? Whatever they are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon's what pays the bills and enables me to do this as my living. Any amount that you can support is of great assistance. Even if you can't, like, share, subscribe, help me out. But don't worry too much about that either. Because what I really want you to remember is that you are beautiful, you are valid, and you are loved. You are the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned. End of the video, so I gotta shout out my top patrons. Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfulla, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Oliver B., Angus Bjarnason, Melinda Walters, Imudelki, The Oath of Boyd, Katoria, Toy Lowly, Becky Sparks, Fernambulax the Poodle, Zach, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Tim Price, Adam R.D.L. Taylor, Shayla Gourlay, and Brendan LaRose. Thanks for your support. If you want to hear me probably mispronounce your name as well, check out the rewards on the Patreon. How you doing there?